The first sound wasn't the report of a rifle. It was a voice, sharp, doubting, cutting across the firing line. How in hell did she do that? 600 yards away. The wind flattened and curled across the berm. The paper target looked clean until the spotter glass confirmed it. 5 rounds. Half-MOA spread. Center mass. Staff Sergeant Brynn Mercer didn't answer. She just exhaled steady. Measured the M2010 ESR still warm beneath her gloved palm. Around her, Marines and soldiers leaned forward, disbelief cracking the silence. Nobody expected a shot that clean. Not in this heat. Not with humidity thick enough to choke the air over Camp Redwing's range. The man who'd spoken, Gunnery Sergeant Hugo Merrick, lowered his spotting scope. Jaw tight. That's impossible. Brynn eased the bolt open. The brass casing flicked clear, smoke twisting upward like a thin ribbon of proof. To her, it wasn't impossible. It was inheritance. Before the shot, I've got one question for you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or unit in the comments, and if stories like this hit home, subscribe so you don't miss the next mission. Long before the uniform, before sniper school, before Afghanistan, there was a barn in Cedar Hollow, Kentucky, a gunsmith's workshop. Her grandfather's hands, rough as walnut stalk, teaching her how to weigh powder to the 10th of a grain, how to seat bullets by feel, how to listen to the barrel instead of the crowd. He used to tell her, accuracy isn't pride. Brynn, it's respect for the craft, the shot, and the truth it carries. Now, surrounded by rank, rivalry, and noise, that lesson hummed in her pulse. Captain Helena Raines moved down the line, clipboard tucked under one arm, scanning the bullet holes through mirrored glasses. 600 yards. Half-MOA, she said. Who's your armorer? Brynn met her eyes. I am, ma'am. Heads turned. Raines's brow lifted, half surprise, half curiosity. Merrick folded his arms, studying her like a problem that refused to fit into regulation. Then the loudspeaker cracked through the air. All teams, report to Fort Lydell for inter-service challenge briefing. Brynn slid the rifle into its case as she zipped it shut. The light caught her face, calm, resolute, untouchable. Whispers followed as she walked off the line. No one knew it yet. But someone would try to break her before the next sunrise, and she'd already learned the rule her grandfather never wrote down. Precision isn't about control. It's about what you do when control is taken away. Camp Redwing was the proving ground. Fort Lydell would be the war. The humidity hit like a wall thick, relentless, heavy enough to cling to skin and doubt alike. Every shooter double-checked dope charts, recalibrated optics, whispered wind calls under their breath. The inter-service precision challenge hadn't even begun. But tension already had a pulse. Staff Sergeant Brynn Mercer moved through the armory checklist with the same deliberate rhythm she used on the firing line. 200 rounds of MK248 Mod 1 300 Win Mag, factory tested and sealed. Until the armorer scrolled down the manifest and frowned. Ma'am, your lot's flagged as delayed. Says it was rerouted somewhere in transit. Brynn's tone stayed even. Rerouted where? He shook his head. No idea. Range control's been notified, but it might not arrive until day 2. Outside. Staff Sergeant Cole Gage Dalton leaned against the Humvee. Waiting. One look at her face and he didn't have to ask. Let me guess the ammo didn't just vanish. She handed him the clipboard. You've heard something. He nodded. Marine's been talking. Merrick's got friends in logistics. Word is they're evening the odds. Brynn didn't curse. She just drew one slow breath, the kind that steadies crosshairs before a shot. I've got a backup plan. That night, inside her quarters, She cracked open a steel case, an RCBS hand press, digital scale, Sierra MatchKing 220-drawer OTM bullets, and polished 300 Win Mag brass gleaming like gold under the lamp. Her grandfather's tools older than most rifles on base, and twice as honest. She laid them out like relics, deliberate, reverent. Each grain of powder measured, each primer seated, became an act of defiance, a language she'd learned in a Kentucky barn where precision wasn't science, but faith. Thunder muttered over Fort Lydell, low and distant, like the range itself was listening. Dalton leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You're really gonna handload for a sanctioned match?" Brynn didn't look up. "I'm not handloading, I'm proving something." By 22:30, every charge was logged, every seating depth recorded, and the validation request sent through range control. At 2300 that same night, Captain Helena Rains read the file in her quarters every line, every figure, and quietly signed it, as both event supervisor and ranking officer on site. Rains had the authority to greenlight special validation, a small bend in protocol, but within her rights. By 0200, neat rows of custom 300 Win Mag rounds lined the towel identical, immaculate, dangerously consistent. Outside, the bugle's first call rose over Fort Lydell sharp. Cold, unstoppable. Tomorrow. Brynn would step onto that range carrying ammunition no one could sabotage. And for the first time, it wouldn't be her under the microscope, it would be the system that tried to break her. Dawn at Fort Lydell. Range Alpha broke clean, not cold, but sharp, like the air itself was waiting to be measured. Captain Helena Rains had approved the handload request at 2300 the night before, a quiet act of trust that bent regulation but honored skill. As both event supervisor and ranking officer on site, she had the authority to greenlight special validation. She knew the risk if Staff Sergeant Brynn Mercer failed. Command would come for them both. But Rains didn't sign for politics. She signed for belief. Now, beneath the first light of day, Brynn knelt beside a small steel case, inside 2 perfect rows of hand-loaded 7.62 NATO rounds, brass gleaming faintly under the sunrise. Next to them lay her logbook, every charge, every seating depth, recorded with the precision of prayer. Rains folded her arms. "You built your own ammo for this challenge." Brynn nodded, authorized, logged, and ready for chronograph verification. Rains gestured to Sergeant First Class Ramirez, the range armorer. He wheeled forward the Oehler 35P chronograph, tripod legs biting into the gravel. The first shot cracked through the morning air, clean, surgical, then another. Printer tape streamed out in a tight, flawless sequence. Ramirez blinked. Standard deviation, 5 feet per second. Rains exhaled. Slow. That's tighter than Lake City's own lot test. Behind them, Gunnery Sergeant Hugo Merrick crossed his arms, the first hint of doubt shadowing his confidence. Dalton muttered from the spotting scope, "Guess her miracle loads really are science." Then came the real test. Brynn went prone. Cheek pressed to the M210 ESR's stock. Her breathing synced with the rhythm of her pulse. The wind danced unpredictably across the flag line. She adjusted 2 clicks left, 1/2 mil high, and waited for that silent space between heartbeats. "Send it," Dalton whispered. The rifle spoke. 900 yards of air split clean. Impact center mass. Then 9 more followed, deliberate, unhurried, mercilessly consistent. When Rains walked the target line, she stopped cold. 10 holes, a half-minute cluster spanning 600 to 900 yards. No flyers. No doubt. Behind her, Merrick's boots scuffed the gravel. "Luck," he said flatly. Let's see her do it again tomorrow. Brynn rose, pocketing a single spent casing her quiet signature. Luck doesn't repeat, she said softly. Discipline does. Dalton grinned. And discipline doesn't miss. The morning wind tugged at the flags, but the range stayed silent like even the air had run out of arguments. Tomorrow wouldn't test her bullets anymore. It would test what was left of everyone else's pride. 3 days later, after the final match and the storm of whispers, the inter-service precision challenge was over. But the echoes hadn't stopped. Not on the range. Not in the mess hall. When the loudspeakers cracked to life, the chatter died instantly. Attention all competitors. Report to the main auditorium immediately. Every fork froze mid-air. Conversations cut off like a switch. Everyone knew that tone, the kind that comes before careers end or reputations shatter. At the front of the auditorium, Captain Helena Rains stood with a folder under her arm, posture straight, voice steady, eyes unreadable. She'd been under review, too. Approving Staff Sergeant Brynn Mercer's handloads had been a risk that could have cost her command. Now, it was time to see if that trust would stand. The board has concluded its inquiry, she said, voice crisp as a bolt locking home. Supply routing to the Army team was deliberately manipulated prior to the competition. The individuals responsible are now pending disciplinary action under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The words landed like rounds on steel. No applause, no reaction, just a silence heavy with things unsaid. In the second row, Gunnery Sergeant Hugo Merrick sat rigid, jaw tight, eyes forward. He didn't deny it. He didn't have to. Everyone already knew. At the back of the room, Brynn Mercer sat still, hands clasped behind her back. She'd already proven what the investigation only confirmed, that precision, when pushed, could survive sabotage. Her custom handloads hadn't just matched factory specs. They'd humiliated them. When the assembly finally dismissed, Merrick found her outside, standing near the range gates. The sky was burning orange-red, the air thick with the scent of oil and dust. "You made your point," he said, voice low. "Not quite anger, not quite respect." Brynn didn't turn. "No," she said. "The target did." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "You built victory from nothing. That's rare." Behind them, the flags rippled in the dusk, 2 soldiers, opposite in pride but equal in gravity. As Merrick walked away, Colgage Dalton stepped beside her, boots crunching over gravel. "You think he'll change?" Brynn exhaled, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Maybe," she said quietly. "But pride doesn't bend easy. It cracks first." Down range, the target stood motionless, pale silhouettes waiting for tomorrow's wind. And for the first time, she wasn't fighting sabotage anymore. She was fighting to prove that precision, real precision, could hold its ground against everything that tried to break it. The team event came and went, a storm of dust, shifting winds, and moving silhouettes. Brynn and Dalton finished first, clean through the chaos, but neither of them said much afterward. Winning had stopped being the point. 3 months later, at Quanton Training Center, the rhythm was different. No competition, no scoreboard, just the echo of rifle bolts and the hum of focus in a classroom built for those who wanted to learn and unlearn. Staff Sergeant Brynn Mercer stood at the front, sleeves rolled, hands steady over a digital powder scale that looked older than the recruits watching her. 15 Snipers Army, Marines, and Air Force sat in silence as she measured a single grain of powder, placed it down, and looked up. "This isn't about bullets," she said. "It's about discipline and the respect behind it." In the back row sat Gunnery Sergeant Hugo Merrick, the same man who once doubted her, now taking quiet notes. He didn't interrupt. He didn't smirk. He just listened the way soldiers do when truth lands heavier than recoil. Brynn picked up a brass casing, held it to the light. Every round you build, every shot you take, it carries your name. Doesn't matter what patch you wear. The round doesn't know rank. She seated a bullet with the smooth confidence of someone who'd built herself back from sabotage and silence. Around her, the class leaned forward, no one wanting to miss a motion. When the session ended, Merrick lingered near the table. "You ever think about competing again?" he asked. Brynn smiled faintly, shaking her head. "No need. I already proved what I needed to." He nodded toward the old RCBS hand press on her desk. "That thing still works." She brushed her fingertips over its worn metal. The same tool her grandfather once used. Better than most things built new, she said. The others filed out, boots echoing down the corridor. Brynn stayed a moment longer, sunlight slanting through high windows, glinting off rows of polished brass, each one reflecting her face in tiny fragments of gold. In that stillness, her grandfather's voice seemed to drift through the years. Precision isn't control. Brynn, it's respect for the craft, for the moment. For yourself? She smiled, pocketed a single cartridge, and closed the door behind her. Because in a world that keeps trying to take control away, some people still choose to build their own